Ethan sat on a rain-soaked park bench, clutching a crumpled rejection letter. His reflection in the puddle looked lost and afraid. Every dream felt heavy, every step uncertain. The world moved on around him, but inside, a tiny spark whispered, "This isn't the end. You can rise." Ethan walked aimlessly through the empty streets, his hoodie soaked from the rain. The rejection letter felt heavier with every step, a constant reminder that his dreams were slipping through his fingers. Memories of late nights, endless practice, and sacrifices swirled in his mind, mocking him. He had imagined this moment differently, confident, celebrated, unstoppable. Instead, here he was, wondering if all his efforts had been in vain. Passing by glowing shop windows, he saw strangers laughing, couples holding hands, friends chatting, everyone moving forward while he seemed frozen in time. A pang of loneliness stabbed him, sharper than the cold wind biting at his face. Doubt whispered relentlessly, "Maybe you're not cut out for this. Maybe you've failed for good." He found himself sitting on the curb, head in his hands, staring at puddles that mirrored his defeat. The rain blurred the city lights, but it couldn't wash away the ache inside. Ethan wanted to scream, to shake off the weight pressing on his chest, but no sound came. Silence swallowed him whole. His mind replayed every mistake, every missed opportunity, every harsh word he had told himself in the mirror. The fire that once fueled him now felt like ashes. For the first time he questioned not just his dreams but himself. Could he really rise after this? Or was this the moment life had decided to break him completely? Yet, beneath the heaviness, a faint ember of something unspoken lingered. A tiny pulse that refused to be extinguished. Ethan didn't know it yet. But this fall, as deep and painful as it was just the first step toward a journey that would change him forever. Days passed, but Ethan barely noticed. He stayed locked in his small apartment, the curtains drawn tight against the world outside. The rejection letter lay on the table, untouched, like a monument to his failure. The room was silent except for the occasional drip of water from the leaky faucet, each drop echoing in the emptiness around him. His phone buzzed occasionally, friends checking in, family offering words of encouragement. But he didn't respond. He couldn't. Every message felt like a reminder that everyone else was moving forward, while he remained trapped in his own shadow. He stared at the ceiling for hours, replaying every mistake, every lost opportunity, every moment that had led him here. Ethan's reflection in the mirror startled him. The once hopeful young man looked hollow, his hazel eyes dull, shoulders slumped under invisible weight. Doubt had crept in like a silent intruder, whispering that he wasn't good enough, talented enough, strong enough to face the world again. He tried distracting himself, old hobbies, music, even sketching, but nothing filled the emptiness. Every attempt felt futile. The spark he had felt in the park now seemed like a cruel illusion. Nights were the hardest, when the silence pressed down, when his own thoughts became his fiercest critics. He felt invisible, irrelevant, like a shadow of who he once was. Yet, even in this darkness, a small, stubborn flicker of life remained inside him. He didn't notice it yet, but that tiny spark was preparing him for a journey that would demand everything: courage, resilience, and the willingness to rise again, no matter how many times life knocked him down. One gray morning, Ethan heard a soft knock at his apartment door. He opened it to find an old mentor from college, smiling gently. "I thought I'd check on you," the mentor said. "You've got fire in you, Ethan. Don't let one failure convince you that you're done." Ethan wanted to argue, to retreat back into the darkness. But something about the words stirred a flicker of hope. The conversation wasn't about fixing everything immediately. It was about seeing the tiniest possibility, the faint spark that hadn't died. That night, Ethan sat at his desk, staring at a blank notebook. For the first time in weeks, he picked up a pen. Words spilled out, thoughts, dreams, fears, all tangled together. The act of creation reminded him that even in failure, he still had control over his story. The next morning, he laced up his worn sneakers and stepped outside. The air smelled of rain and possibility. He ran through the quiet streets, heartbeat sinking with each step, the rhythm washing away layers of doubt. Every drop of sweat felt like progress, every breath a small rebellion against the fear that had paralyzed him. Ethan started to rebuild, brick by brick. He revisited old skills, experimented with new ideas, and slowly, carefully, began to push past the boundaries he had set for himself. Small victories, finishing a sketch, completing a morning run, sending out a short project, added up. They were tiny sparks, but together they began forming a fire inside him. For the first time in weeks, Ethan felt movement, not of the world around him, but of himself, growing stronger, steadier. The fall had been deep, the darkness consuming, but the spark of hope had been enough to light the path forward. He realized that rising again wouldn't be instantaneous, but it was possible. And for the first time, he believed it. The journey forward was far from easy. Ethan quickly realized that hope alone wouldn't erase months of doubt or undo years of habits that held him back. Each day presented new challenges, small failures, and moments that tempted him to give up. One morning, while revising a project he had abandoned weeks ago, he made a critical mistake. Frustration surged, and for a fleeting moment, the old voice of self-doubt crept in. "See? You're not ready. You never were." But instead of surrendering, Ethan took a deep breath, studied the error, and tried again. Slowly, meticulously, he corrected it. The small victory filled him with unexpected pride. Days turned into weeks, and Ethan began a rhythm of deliberate effort. He woke early to sketch, write, and plan. He faced rejection after rejection, yet each time he treated them not as failures, but as lessons. Every setback became a stepping stone. He learned patience, perseverance, and the strength to rise even when the odds seemed stacked against him. Sometimes progress was invisible. He would stare at his reflection and wonder if he had really changed. But others began noticing, a friend complimenting his sketch, a mentor acknowledging his renewed dedication. Recognition wasn't the goal, yet it became a mirror, showing him the growth he had refused to see. Ethan also faced moments of doubt when old habits resurfaced, procrastination, fear, hesitation, but each time he caught himself, pushed through, and learned to embrace discomfort as part of growth. The process was messy, imperfect, and deeply human. Through sweat, tears, and relentless persistence, Ethan slowly transformed. He was no longer the hollow young man who sat staring at puddles in the rain. He carried a quiet confidence, a resilient spirit, and a fire that refused to die. The fall had left scars, but those scars became reminders of lessons learned and strength gained. By the end of this struggle, Ethan didn't just feel like he was moving forward. He felt alive, capable, and ready to meet the next challenge. The fire inside him had grown from a flicker to a steady flame, guiding him toward the breakthrough he knew awaited him. The day finally came. Ethan stood at the edge of a small stage, the early morning sun painting the sky with gold and amber. His hands trembled slightly, but his heart was steady. Months of struggle, failure, and doubt had led him here, and for the first time he felt the full weight and the thrill of his own growth. He shared his work, his story, his journey, with a small but attentive audience. As words flowed from him, the fear that had once paralyzed him faded, replaced by a calm confidence that came only from having faced the darkness and emerged stronger. Each nod, each smile from the listeners felt like validation, not of his talent alone, but of his courage to rise. Ethan remembered every sleepless night, every mistake, every moment when he had questioned himself. Each scar, each tear, each failure had been a teacher, shaping him into someone capable of standing here today. The fire within him, which had begun as a tiny spark in the rain, now burned steadily, warm and unshakable. When the presentation ended, Ethan stepped outside. The sun touched his face, and the breeze carried away the last remnants of doubt. He looked out over the streets, the city moving around him as it always had, but he no longer felt small. He had fallen, yes, but he had risen. And that rising, that relentless effort to keep going, even when the world seemed against him, had changed him forever. Ethan smiled, not because the journey was over, but because he had discovered something far more important than success: the strength to trust himself, to embrace fear, and to keep moving forward no matter how many times life tried to knock him down. And in that moment, he understood the truth he had long forgotten. Fear is heavy, but courage makes you fly.